Let's get into the Kail Lowry story, shall we? So today I actually tuned into that podcast that she does with her like on and off friend Becky. And she's talking about a former friend of hers that she fell out with. And this friend seems to want to get back in her good graces, but Kail is not having it. And I really want to know what you think about it. So basically, here's the problem. They had a falling out of a situation. Kail went on to her Coffee Convos podcast to talk about it. She hid the friend's name, but she talked about falling out with this friend. And obviously, the friend knew who she was. And so she said, "Oh, you're going to talk about me on your podcast? I bet." And so the friend started talking like on social media to the press, things like that about her falling out with Kail. It's kind of like, okay, you can talk, since you opened this can of worms to talk about me and our situation in public, even if you changed my name, I know who I am and the people around us know who I am. So it's still not okay. I'm speaking out. Kail is saying that that wasn't okay, what her friend did. She said that it was unforgivable for her friend to go and talk in public about their falling out. Kail says it's not a double standard because she makes money talking about her life on her podcast. Isn't that interesting, you guys? I don't know that I'm buying it. I think that they both did the same thing. And, okay, sure, this friend went to the press, but like, so did Kail, right? When she went on her podcast. So I do not see the problem. And the friend didn't go to the press until Kail did this. It's not like the friend, immediately upon falling out with Kail, like dialed Radar Online and started talking about it. No, she was minding her own business. She heard about her name and the situation being brought up in front of all of these listeners. And Kail's Coffee Convos podcast is, assez populaire. It's popular enough. So I thought she was well within her rights to be like, okay, well, now everybody's speculating, I'm being tagged and all of this stuff. So I think it's a little bit crazy that Kail doesn't see like, any part of this that could have been avoided if she just did not talk about it on her podcast, right? So basically, Becky was asking her, well, would you be able to look past this and, become friends with this girl again? Kail says no. In fact, all she wants from this girl is a public apology, but that she will never be friends with her again. And one of the things that she's extremely pissed off about, even to this day, is that she's got this reputation of having a revolving door of like friends, right? Of like how she can't keep a friendship or anything like that going. And so she said that this contributed to that. So I am wondering if you guys can, potentially theorize as to who this friend is. So I do have a couple of people that I've got in mind. Okay, so let me go ahead and take a look, right? Hamlet's hydrates with coffee. I wish I could hydrate with coffee because it gives me the shakes, but it gives me the shakes. Oh, you know what? I forgot to tell you guys this. I feel like I was cheating on you. I haven't, and it's been a month of this and I didn't tell you guys. I'm sorry. You know how I'm like caffeine sensitive unless it's like an iced coffee? I discovered that I love cappuccino. I love cappuccino. Wow. Now I feel like an adult when I go to like the cafe and I actually have like a thing that I can order. It used to be like a hot chocolate or something, Now I can order a cappuccino. Love you too, Angela. Thank you so much for being here. You guys, let's get into the people that I'm theorizing, right? I'm thinking, okay, could it have been Peach? Could it have been Dom? Although the relationship with Dom was more than just a friendship, right? Allie, some people shouldn't have a mic, just coffee and no sense. I love that. I thought it could have been Peach. I thought it could have been Dom. But here's my most recent one. Could it have been Darcy? Do you guys remember when Kail had that, like, she had this pen pal on Instagram, right? Her name was Darcy, and then they fell out. I don't even remember why they fell out ultimately. But then Darcy went ahead and spilled all that tea. She was the one who exposed Kail, talking about Joe is so ugly. I can't believe V F's him. I could never. My coochie would shrivel up at the thought of him. All of that. Like, it was ugly. She was talking about everybody. Darcy let it all hang out. Is that what she's talking about? Because if that's the case, okay, that I understand. Because that ruined relationships to a level that just cannot be, reconstructed, right? Like, that was bad. The stuff that she let out was bad, okay? But I'm starting to think, you know what? I think it's somebody that like she actually knew in real life, right? Because she talks about this person hanging out with other people in her life and whatnot. So I'm like, I don't know. Could it be Peach? But I thought Peach was somebody from like Javi's life more so than hers. I don't know, you guys. Why is nobody putting their guesses in the chat? I want to know who y'all think it is. Hamlet says the fact she makes money, if it's like the pot calling the kettle black. What an entitled witch. That's the funny part. Like, why does she think that it's okay for her to air people out if she's going to make money off of it, but other people can't? And apparently this girl didn't even make money from it. And then here she comes talking about, well, before she used to say people used to try to sell her out for money. She hates that. Now it's all of a sudden, well, she didn't even make any money off of it. That's even worse. Because if you made money, at least I would have known. At least, like, you know, I could like theorize it or excuse it by saying that it helped you out. Pick a lane, girl. Pick a lane. Thank you, Shani. That is so nice. Thank you, thank you, thank you. She's the one who snitches on herself for losing her friends. That's the thing too. I think it's perfectly normal to have friendships that drift or this or that, but she always turns it into this like big, spectacular, like, you know, pay-per-view event. And that's why we talk about it, you know? And I think she's a little bit, and I agree with Elle, so good. I think she's a little bit like jealous of Chelsea. And I think she talked about Leah as well. She said, you know, like my situation is not the same. Like I've moved, you know, from states. It's not like, you know, Chelsea, who's always been in like South Dakota. It's not like Leah, who's never left West Virginia. I said, oh, girl, that's a little bitchy. That's a little bitchy. Because here's the thing, like, I don't think we were ever really thinking all that much about her Pennsylvania friends. It's the Delaware friends. She's been in Delaware for over a decade, girl. So, you know, I think it's more than just the Pennsylvania friends. It's the friendships that she's had fallen out with since being in Delaware. You know, you know, anyway, listen, she's very much affected by this reputation that she has is the one key takeaway that I had from this. And she really blames a lot of it out on this one particular friend. Angela says at least one of Kail's kids will write a tell-all book one day. I agree. And thank you, Katie. Thank you so much. Houston says it might be Sterling. They've been on and off at times. And you know what? She did mention Sterling by name. She said that she fell out with Sterling for a year, but that they're good now. The only pseudonym that she used for this friend was Helen. And she also talked a little bit about falling out with, who's Pepperan again? What's her name? Oh, Bonehead. She talked about falling out with Bonehead temporarily as well. So that's why, like, the only people that I could think of are Peach, Dom, and Darcy. But I could be off. But those are the only people I can think of. Gwen says Kail is one of those people that moves the goalpost. Yup. So she can criticize literally anything she feels like Abby Miller. I agree. Honestly, I just was laughing at her way of trying to like explain this away, why it was okay for her to speak publicly, but not the friend. To me, when you bring up a person and it's enough that they can identify themselves in your story, other people who know you guys can identify them in your story, people online are starting to go to them and, you know, point this out about them or criticize them or whatever. I think that when you open up that can of worms, that person has the right to defend themselves and to speak publicly. Because, you know, unfortunately, there are so many people who are really, really passionate about Kail, right? And we saw that when she fell out with V, speaking of Angelisa. And I don't think it's V because, you know, Kail said that V was never a friend, more so like an acquaintance or like, you know, someone that she had to get along with because it's her baby daddy's wife. But, you know, speaking of, when she and V fell out, and I don't think V would want to be friends with her, especially after the way she went on the podcast and called V a deadbeat stepmom, said V was a user. Oh, she got so ugly with that girl. Again, which is why I don't understand why she's acting this way, right? She got so ugly with her child's stepmom. She insulted everything about that girl, like her motives, everything about her. That we found out also prior to their falling out that Kail was talking crap about her husband and wondering about her own taste. How are you getting it on with that type of stuff, you know? So she does these things and she says these things. And then if somebody wants to defend themselves and share their own perspective of what went down with them, it's F you ruined my life, you ruined my reputation. It's weird. It's very, very biased. It's very rules for thee, but not for me. And I really, really, really do not like that. And Gwen says, you know what? And I think you're right. It's hard to guess because she's got more ex-friends than current ones. Ooh. And on that note, Ramser says, should call her Kail falling out Lowry, right? Like, I don't know what it is with that girl, but she has a really, really hard time maintaining relationships. Lisa says, I don't know. Her kids seem very well loved and love her. I don't think her kids will write tell-alls. Yeah. You know what? I think that we're going to see quite a few coming out. Here's one thing. I think that they're trying to market Isaac so much that like he might get into this route of like, you know, maybe wanting to do a book, especially because Kail has had, you know, many books. That might be an inspiration. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, a tell-all would not necessarily be all bad, like, a burn book against her. But I think he'd be spilling some kind of tea. I do, especially with all of the siblings and stuff, and all of that. Like, I think he feels like, and it is true that it's a very unique, family situation that he might want to speak on one day. I don't know. Now Jasmine says one day Kail's gonna piss off the wrong person. I agree. And she already started with that one girl, Darcy. Like, Darcy, really, she went in on her. She really, really did. So stay tuned, you guys. Anyway, you guys, that has been another episode of The Morning Report. It's been so great chatting with you.